Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today is February 1st and it is a Monday. So because it is the first of the month and the start of the week, I thought it would be a perfect time to start a vlog. I haven't done a vlog in a while, so I'm really looking forward to finally getting back into one. I'm just going to start by telling you what I'm planning on reading throughout the month. I am reading a book with my book club called Black Skin, White Masks by Fanon, I think is the author, and I'm waiting for my copy to come in, so I haven't been able to start that yet, but I am really looking forward to it. I don't really know anything about it, so it's going to be kind of one of those things that I just experience as I go through, and then I'm really excited to find out what the people in my book club think about it once we're finished. I'm also really going to work on finishing I Thought It Was Me. I thought it was just me, but it isn't, by Brene. This is a book all about shame and how shame impacts us. And so I'm really looking forward to finishing this. I'm going to also get High Tide by Art Hades finished with. I actually really don't like her poetry style, but I also have poetry collections here, so I want to finish them. And then I am looking forward to starting a book that I actually just recently purchased, and that is Good Morning, I Love You, Mindfulness and Self-Compassion Practices to Rewire Your Brain for Calm, Clarity, and Joy by Shauna Shapiro. And I decided to purchase this because I have found, recently that I really struggle with self-compassion. I am a person who is very, a million shades of gray when it comes to other people and thinking about other people. But when it comes to myself, I tend to be very black and white. I have to do these things to be good. If I do these things, I'm bad. I have to be perfect or I'm horrible and completely worthless and crappy. And I'm really trying to move away from that, not only so that I feel better about myself and, my life experience in general is better, but also because it's really important for me to be in a healthy place in terms of how I conceptualize myself. So that way I can interact with others, especially, in clinical practice better, and also so I can model better behaviors for other people. And so there's really all the reasons to really start focusing on strengthening my sense of self-compassion, and no reason not to. And so I watched one of Shauna Shapiro's TED Talks on mindfulness, and I don't know, I just really liked her kind of neurological components that she added in there. And I liked the title of the book is called Good Morning, I Love You, because her therapist had told her that she wants her to start every morning by looking in the mirror and saying, good morning to herself and I love you. And how she talks about how when her therapist told her that, she was like, that's weird. I'm not doing that. That's so stupid. And honestly, I felt the same way. Like I couldn't imagine telling myself and actually believing it, like, oh, good morning, Tiffany, I love you. That seems so lame and so tacky, and I wouldn't believe it. And then the knowledge and the reflection that if I said those words to myself, words that I would say to anybody else, well, not anybody else, but I would say to many other people and mean it from the bottom of my heart, but I couldn't say it to myself, that made me realize, wow, I really need to do a lot of work here on my relationship with myself. So I got her book just because I saw that she had one and I kind of liked that idea. And I'm actually going to be moving my way through multiple books about self-compassion this year, not only for myself, but also because I really want to find a couple solid books that I can recommend when I find other people, be it in real life or clinical practice, who struggle with self-compassion as well. Hello everybody and welcome back. Today is Thursday, February 4th, and I thought that I would quickly come on and share the books that I just received in the mail with you all. I had been doing really good in 2020, not purchasing a lot of books, and then 2021 came around and I said to myself, well, you've been doing such a great job not purchasing a bunch of books. Why don't you treat yourself a little bit? And then things got out of hand, and now I'm here punishing myself again for the rest of 2021 to not purchase a bunch of books unless I really need them, which need can get tricky with me because I like to buy books related to my career and professional development, so I can easily trick myself into saying, yeah, you need this, $100 batch of books. You need them. In reality, I probably don't, but whatever. Okay, so
I purchased a bunch of books I'm going to share with you quickly. I am going to do a book haul actually on my channel, but you all get a little sneak peek if you're watching the vlog. So I do want to preface with what I am currently researching is I am really interested in the topics of mindfulness, perfectionism, and self-compassion right now. Perfectionism is a topic that comes up a lot, at least in my setting. I work in a partial hospitalization unit, and so I get pretty severe cases of OCD, depression, anxiety, PTSD, eating disorders, and one underlying factor common among most people is a high sense of perfectionism, a very low sense of self-compassion, and also very low mindfulness skills. I don't want to say low mindfulness skills, very low engagement in mindfulness skills. So I'm interested in books that are going to give me better ways to verbalize these different ideas. And so I like to kind of read how different practicing clinicians or researchers define these terms and concepts, how they explain them, and kind of pick and choose from each person to develop my own conceptualization and way of relaying that information to people in ways that I can kind of customize to where they are at the moment, if that makes sense. One of the things that I purchased then is this Perfectionism workbook. And this is Proven Strategies to End Procrastination, Accept Yourself, and Achieve Your Goals. This is by Taylor Newendorp, and this is a workbook for people. It has a bunch of activities, and so this is good in a number of different reasons. If I find workbooks that I think are really good, it's always nice to have something that off the cuff that I can recommend to family members or friends or people that I know in my personal life where I cannot be their therapist, but they need help in some area. And so I've heard that this is a really, really phenomenal workbook for perfectionism. Also, I really like having workbooks because I can take the different activities within these workbooks and apply them kind of a la carte to clients that I'm working with as I see fit or as they need. So that's nice. I also purchased 2 books on self-compassion mindfulness. And these books I bought because the 2 authors are supposed to be kind of like the top writers in these subject areas. So the first one I got was Self-Compassion, The Proven Power of Being Kind to Yourself by Kristen Neff. And then I also got The Mindfulness Path to Self-Compassion, Freeing Yourself from Destructive Thoughts and Emotions by Christopher Germer. And again, I'm just really excited in these topics because it's an interesting paradox, right? Perfectionism, lack of self-compassion. A lot of us, we hold ourselves to these unrelenting, really rigid standards. And the irony is that we think that by doing these things, we're going to improve ourselves, right? We have these unrelenting standards because we want to be the best version of ourselves for ourselves and for other people. But when we treat ourselves in these ways, when we engage in all this negative self-talk, when we call ourselves failures, when we expect or demand nothing other than perfection, even though we're human beings and perfection is literally impossible, we completely diminish our capacity to grow and improve. And so working through these topics is something that I really see as something that's mentally, emotionally, behaviorally, even spiritually liberating. And so, yes, I'm very excited to read these books. I also got a book called Black Skin, White Masks by Frantz, Fanon. And I purchased this because my virtual book club is reading this for the month of February. So I'm excited to read this. I have literally no idea what this is about. Know nothing about the author, know nothing about anything other than this was the book that one of the group members recommended. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading this and seeing what it's about. And then finally, one more book that I am going to share that I purchased is Building a Life Worth Living, a memoir by Marsha M. Linehan. For those of you who don't know, Marsha Linehan is the developer of dialectical behavior therapy. And dialectical behavior therapy is a therapy that was originally created to help borderline personality disorder as a treatment for borderline personality disorder. It is the most evidence-based treatment for borderline personality disorder by far. But also DBT and the principles of DBT have been generalized to other mental health disorders or kind of dysfunction of living. And honestly, if I'm being really honest, learning how to give the protocol and to do the protocol means that I had to learn all these principles. And a lot of them were things that I've enacted and put into place within my own life, and I found them to be really, really helpful. And so I'm just a big proponent of DBT. And I was debating whether or not to purchase this book for a while. But then I decided to purchase it because I didn't know this until somebody recently told me. But I guess that Marsha Linehan, there's a chance I might be incorrect, so don't hold me to this. I'll find out when I read. But I think that they said that she actually was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. And so she kind of constructed this, it sounds like she constructed this therapy in order to help people who were in situations like her. And I find that to be really, really beautiful, right? Imagine you are living with this disorder, these experiences that most people can't understand, many people don't have compassion for, and there's nothing out there to help you. And so you decide that you're going to figure out how to get the help that you need. And you create it and make it deliverable to people who otherwise wouldn't have that opportunity or that help. I think I get emotional kind of just thinking about that, but I think that's a very beautiful thing. So I'm excited to read this book. That's all the books that I got today, thank goodness. But I will keep you updated with my reading progress in the next clip.
I think that this is going to be the last clip for this vlog because I don't want it to be too long. And again, I talk so much for every clip. But before I end for this vlog, I wanted to quickly give my thoughts on my update for reading. I thought it was just me, but it isn't. Making the Journey from What Will People Think to I Am Enough by Brene Brown. And in this book, as I've talked about before, Brene Brown is writing all about shame, shame resilience, the difference between things like shame and guilt, and basically all things that have to do with how we perceive ourselves as compared to other people. And she brought up a couple things in my last bit of reading that I wanted to bring up. And the first one is talking about shame as it comes to body image, particularly for women. And this is something that I think most women, and probably a lot more men than will openly admit to others and to themselves. But it kind of pertains to us in the sense that a lot of us feel pressures and shame related to our body image. And we don't often, even though it's experienced in the book, she said, by like 90% of women, many women don't talk about things in a way that is going to be helpful. And oftentimes we will perpetuate these same things that kind of maintain the stigma and maintain the judgment to other people. And it's like when we finally find a way to feel as though we don't have to feel ashamed for something, we will oftentimes shame other people. So for instance, I think social media is a really great example. We go on social media and we see all these young people, beautiful people who are beautiful naturally, just by nature. But then also on top of that, there's all this editing. There's styling of their clothes and their makeup. There's editing. There's getting lighting and angles correctly. And so what we see are these perfect pictures of these unattainable bodies. And we often talk about bodies, but one thing that I've noticed that really impacts me that I don't hear talked about as much are things like skin texture, hair texture, facial features, and body, but not in the way that is often talked about. For me, the things that I start to compare is like, skin clarity or like skin imperfections. I'm really like sensitive about skin, I've noticed, and I don't hear that talked about a lot. And so I might be feeling really, really insecure because I've spent all day seeing all of these people have beautiful, beautiful, perfect everything. And I don't realize how that's impacting me all the time. And so then what happens is then I go to post a picture. And number one, I will perpetuate the same things that influence my feelings of shame and inadequacy. I will purposely try to get the right angles. I will make sure that I never post a picture unless I have makeup on, or and I'll be sneaky about it. Let me be totally honest with you. I will do the whole like, I mean, I won't say that I'm not wearing makeup if I'm not, but I mean, like, I'll like do the look as though I'm not wearing makeup because I want people to assume that I look like that naturally. Like right now, I probably look to some people, usually people who don't wear makeup, that I am like natural faced, and they might look at me and think, oh my God, she has perfect, beautiful skin. She's not wearing any makeup. No, I am wearing makeup. I'm wearing foundation and mascara, and I even cleaned up my brows a little bit. But I would put that picture out there knowing that some people thought this about me, that I just naturally wake up looking like this, because I felt ashamed about the fact that I didn't. And so I just really like that topic, and about being more aware of how we perpetuate the shame to other people, especially when we need to feel better about ourselves. Another thing she brings up, which I totally relate to, is this idea of shame revolved around not being intelligent enough. I've had multiple people, this is so embarrassing to talk about, but that's how we fight against shame, right? So a lot of people in my personal life have told me that I can be arrogant in the way that I will use like big words, or I will say things in a way that they don't understand, and it's to make that they get mad because they feel that it's me talking down to them. And I will say that a lot of that is not true. A lot of times I'm just speaking how I speak, but I don't know if it's because I read a lot or because I'm in academia, so I'm just around people who talk differently than the people that tell me these things. But most of the time, I'm genuinely not trying to come across as smarter or more intelligent as I actually am. But I used to feel really defensive about this, and I used to get really angry and like tell myself, well, it's not my fault they're not smart. Like, it's not my fault that they, And I realized that I could approach that with a lot more humility. And the fact that I wasn't able to approach their responses to me with humility, I think really speaks to this kind of sense of shame. Like, I want to be perceived as somebody who's intelligent and smart, especially because for most of my life, I've struggled with shame around that. I've never felt smart. I've never felt intelligent. And I felt like I have to prove, not really even to other people, but to myself, that I'm smart. But unfortunately, I see that as, well, I can't be a good judge of whether or not I'm smart, so I need this validation from other people. And so in a weird way, when these people would complain to me that I was being an asshole, in a weird way, it reinforced my shame. Like, oh, well, you think I'm an asshole because I'm smart. Well, that makes me feel good because that means I'm smart. And that's not the person I want to be, right? I don't want to shame other people and contribute to their shame around the same thing that I have struggled feeling shame about my whole life. And so nothing in this book is particularly new, but it is something that I think is very valuable, and it's very humbling. Like, it's really reminding me that I need to keep myself in check sometimes, and that even if I have good intentions, there are things that I'm going to do that are going to play into these shaming systems, and that my job is not to pretend like I'll never engage in these things, that I'm above it somehow, because I'm human and I'm not above any of this shit. But to be willing to step back and recognize when I'm engaging in these things and stop myself from doing that, and to not prioritize my individual desire to not feel shame about that topic, and instead prioritize kind of more the communal health, right? Making sure that I'm not perpetuating that on a kind of community basis, if that makes sense. The other thing I really quick wanted to share before I wrap up is this quote that I read that I really, really liked. And it kind of talks about what I was just saying. And I apologize, by the way, for my voice, because I have not been feeling very well. And also, I have a swollen lymph node right here, so my neck is like in a lot of pain. So anyways, my voice is cracking like crazy. But either way, I'm going to read this. It says, when we strive to understand the context or the big picture, we don't give up responsibility, we increase it. When we identify a personal struggle that is rooted in larger issues, we should take responsibility for both. Maybe it's not just our job to make things better for ourselves. Maybe we have a responsibility to make things better for our children, our friends, or our community. If we understand how larger systems are contributing to our shame and we choose only to change ourselves, we become as negligent as the person who says, I'm not changing myself because the system is bad. Context is not the enemy of personal responsibility. Individualism is the enemy of personal responsibility. And this really spoke to me because I've been doing a lot of work in 2020 and in 2021 about accountability and true accountability, not feigned accountability, not accountability aimed at making myself feel better, but true accountability. And it's been really tough. And I've started to notice the same thing, that it's not, a lot of people think that when you look at the context in which a person behaves a certain way or does a certain thing, that's taking the onus and responsibility away from the person and kind of making excuses. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. That can be done, but also it's really important to consider context, or you're not really being responsibly accountable, right? You need to know the factors that contribute to why you behave the way that you do, why you do things the way that you do, so that way you can be aware of the things that trigger those things in you. You can be aware of the real limitations that you have, also be aware of the real strengths that you have, and use those to your advantage to change. And I really like the part that she said about focusing on more than just ourselves. Certainly, I can just focus on building myself up. But I personally really believe in the idea that we as individuals have a responsibility to the collective whole. And that, for me personally, how I conceptualize it is that if I am living my life solely for the well-being of myself, that's not a life worth living. That I want to contribute in my own small ways to the benefit of other people. That's, to me, what makes life worthwhile. And so, I don't know, I really like these topics that I've talked about throughout the books in this vlog, and I'm really happy to be focusing on this. It's hard sometimes because I start to recognize these patterns of behavior within myself sometimes too. But it's also really nice in that way, because when you are aware of yourself in these ways, you can grow from them. Versus if I just try to pretend like I'm some perfect person who never does these things, well, that's like a false sense of feeling good, and it's not permanent, right? So I don't know. I like these topics. I hope that these topics aren't like super, super boring for you all. Because if they are, that's totally cool. Let me know. But then I just won't share these kinds of conversations in my vlog. But I think that they're really helpful. And I know that I really like hearing other people talk kind of in this kind of an intimate detail about their reading experiences, if they feel comfortable doing that, of course, only if they feel comfortable. But yeah, that's all I have for you today. It's like 11 minutes into this clip alone. I have problems with the length, but I will see you in the next video. And until then, I really hope that you're well and that you take care of yourselves.